In the previous two videos, I provided an overview of the live text lesson plan. In this third video, I want to cover the rubric for the assignment. So you'll notice that each section is attached to a standard from a professional organization for early childhood education. I'm going to focus this review on the task, which is in this column, and the target, which can be found to the right in that column. So first, it asks that the candidate will demonstrate knowledge of major concepts, themes of social studies. So over here you'll see where it says evidence shows that the candidate demonstrates in-depth knowledge and understanding of how the major concepts and themes of the fields of social studies and demonstrate in-depth knowledge in more than one of those fields. So in other words, I'm asking you to show competency of what is social studies, and that should come forth in the lesson plan through the use of social studies pertinent instructional strategies, modes of inquiry or ways of thinking about social studies, and a deep knowledge of the content that you are teaching. Then I'm asking you to design a lesson that can demonstrate in-depth knowledge about content and ability to design learning experiences that reflect that content knowledge, and also that tie into the NCSS thematic standards and predominantly through the C3 inquiry framework. If you're designing a lesson plan that has appropriate compelling supporting questions, assessments, use of sources, that really hits the tenets of a C3 lesson plan, you're going to get full credit on that one. You'll also get assessed on an in-depth knowledge of academic disciplines that provide PK6 students with a highly integrated learning experience. So in your lesson plan, I need to be seeing an interdisciplinary connection. And that's not just meaning a mention of a standard from language arts, math, and science, and then no tie-in curricularly or in the learning activities. I need to see in the learning activities the presence of one or more of those subjects. So if you say language arts and there's a particular language arts standard, then in the lesson plan, it's not only that they should be reading, writing, or presenting, which are standards found in language arts, but what is very specifically the learning activities associated with language arts that would be found in the lesson plan for social studies. Also, are students provided with an opportunity to research, analyze, and evaluate real-world situations and are able to demonstrate their competence. That relates to the formative assessments, the summative assessments, of answering the compelling question, and also the taking informed action, applying things into real-world circumstances. Next is showing understanding of knowledge of students, learning theory, subject matter, and curricular development. That plays through with, was the lesson plan developmentally appropriate? Was it designed and acted appropriately? Or were there major glaring mistakes or errors or things that were done that did not meet the developmental needs of students in the lesson plan? Next, you reviewed on effective strategies. So you need to make sure that students are doing some problem finding and solving, they are critical thinking, they're engaged in self-directed learning, and that there's an effective use of technology in the presentation of the strategies. Next is separate of the effective use of technology. So are there technology opportunities in the lesson plan, both use and creation of things using technology? So it's not just like students reading off of a website, they may be producing something using technology. Also associated with that is the use of informational resources, print and electronic, beyond the classroom resources like a textbook that benefit students. So online resources, other texts that are not textbook oriented. Can you show understanding of how students learn and how that learning is influenced by individual experiences, talents, disabilities, prior learning experiences, language, and culture? So those accommodations, the adaptations, extensions, remediations, those aspects of the lesson, the differentiation, and how that impacts student learning and the development of a lesson plan. Next is appropriate use of students' learning levels of development, learning styles, and then the assistance and guidance from specialists such as ELL, special education gifted resource teachers, but also, again, is the lesson developmentally appropriate? And reflecting some of those prior components, did you use a variety of instructional materials and resources, different teaching strategies that promoted students' critical thinking, problem solving, and performance skills, and reflects the effectiveness of those materials, resources, and strategies? So in essence, that one right there, ACEI 3.3, development of critical thinking and problem solving, is tying together many of the prior other rows that you're being assessed on. Next is active engagement in learning, and that is two-part. It's a use of, do you use and modify appropriately a variety of strategies to foster active engagement in learning, self-motivation, and positive social interactions? Is there the presence of cooperation, conflict resolution, purposeful learning in the classroom? Did you create learning communities in which pre-K 6 students assume responsibility for themselves and one another? Do students participate in decision-making, work collaboratively, independently, and engage in purposeful learning activities? Next, are students provided with different communication strategies to help them learn active inquiry? So are you monitoring the effective messages, restating ideas, and drawing connections using verbal cues? So engaging with students consistently through their inquiry and communication strategies in the classroom. That relates to the second of the two communication components in the lesson plan. Do you integrate assessment and instruction effectively as integral parts of designing and aligning instruction and learning goals? So do you have formative assessments that are appropriate and reflect these supporting questions? Then do you have summative assessments that reflect a building up of the formative assessment learning and also reflect the compelling question? And do you have appropriate ways of assessing that student learning? So through rubrics, check guides, those kinds of things. Also, do you engage in self-assessment? Gets to that last part of reflection. Do you engage in appropriate reflection about developing the lesson plan, your growth, the complex interactions that take place in the various parts of the lesson plan, and what you learned from interacting with others, whether it was me as the instructor or from others in class or others outside of the class? And finally, this last component relates to the communication with families, about establishing and maintaining a positive collaborative relationship with families. So it's that email, that newsletter, that communication home with families, let them know what's going on at school and particularly within the unit of instruction and how they might help the students learn in that unit of instruction. All right. With that, that concludes the third and final video of the lesson plan overview. I hope these videos helped you in your development of your plan.